Welcome to Sales Whiteboard Workout, where we talk about sales topics to empower you to win the sales game. I'm your host, Julian Redding, and would like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. Because today's workout is an absolute favourite of mine, story-based selling. We're all storytellers. I'm sure everyone will remember their parents or grandparents telling lots of stories, because it's conditioned in us from an early age to listen and learn from stories. But for every great storyteller, there's lots of bad ones. In today's workout, we're going to dig in to the science of how our brain processes and makes decisions based on information received. We're also going to talk about a structure to create compelling stories that connect. You ready to go? Let's do this. Okay, in sales, storytelling is a critical part of our armour. We use customer reference social proof to help customers from a state of uncertainty to certainty. We want our clients to remember key points, feel secure that we are de-risking their decisions and positioning ourselves as experts with strategic stories. I'd like to take a minute and start by going through the science with you. If you tell a story with facts and figures, research shows a 10 to 15% retention rate, whereas a good connecting story will have 65 to 70%. Massive difference. Now, the important part here is the story has to connect. When it comes to connecting, our brain fires off mirror neurons that subconsciously allow us to establish a common ground during conversation, a common language, if you will. Our subconscious brain is constantly trying to connect, identify, and ultimately judge the information it receives. So let's look how this relates to the customer buying brain. I refer to the buying brain as the psychological state of our clients during the sales process. So allow me to explain the science, because once you understand this, your stories will connect and be powerful. Our brains are broken down into three layers. The outer layer is referred to as the cortex or neocortex. The middle area is the limbic, and the center is the root or core brain. The neocortex and the limbic are then divided into hemispheres called left brain and right brain. Look out for my upcoming podcasts on understanding buyer personas, where we discuss how to connect to the different sides of the brain based on these personas. The neocortex is the thinking or executive brain. The limbic is the feeling brain. This is where emotion, feeling, visualization, and memory are all housed. The final area is the root brain. This is where all the instinctive fight or flight responses are stored. Now, stay with me on this, because this is important for how messaging is received and processed. When we communicate information, it is processed through the appropriate senses, where it is delivered first to the root and limbic system. It will here make an initial subconscious emotional-based decision. We then use the neocortex to justify that decision with facts and logic. So the way the brain processes the information emotionally in the limbic system is vital for connection. I want to briefly talk about three areas of the limbic that are vital to understand. The first is the hippocampus. This is the part that consolidates short-term to long-term memory experiences. The thalamus, which operates as a hub relaying information, and the amygdala, which sends projections to the thalamus and responsible for the processing and storing of emotions. These are the core three that drive information to be processed by the neocortex. Now remember, our subconscious brain is connecting and judging constantly. So no matter where you are or where you're from or what language you are speaking, this is an immutable law. The story you tell goes through this processing, so the story must connect. But how? In trust-based selling, I talk about how important it is to understand our customers' perception of value, how they see the world, what good looks like to them. Your stories need to connect with these values and be relevant to be processed to connect. Don't tell a story until you understand the insights you're going to attach based on the customer's perception of value. When designing a story for a customer, don't just use the same stories. You must connect the person listening for them to be able to identify with the story you tell. How powerful is this? Put simply, a fact wrapped in a narrative is 20 times more likely to be retained than just a fact alone. So think about your customer's perception of value. Think about the key facts you want them to retain. Plan your stories based on these objectives. Now you have this information, I'm going to give you a simple structure to use when planning. Pain, goal, value, solution. This uses a story-based narrative that connects the receiver to the additional start, middle, and end of a story, helping them identify. So here are my psychological tips for a great sales story experience. When you start your story, kick off like this. Working with CIOs and CTOs, we found they've experienced similar issues to you with accessing unstructured data. This immediately positions you as an expert, and the receivers of this information are now connecting, experiencing curiosity and anticipation for what you are about to share. When talking about the goals, use specifics, metrics. As salespeople are sometimes not trusted, so prepare stories that have factual journeys. These are really, really important to prepare. For goals, have targets. Think about that pain to goal target. Think about how the customer actually gets there. Think about the value that you are going to bring. And then finally, tie in the solution and how we delivered it. So there's structure for your winning story. The information that you give in pain and goal, that must connect with the customer's perception of value. You must have numerous stories that explain through social proof how other customers have been on the same journey and how we ultimately delivered it. So I'm coming to the end of my time. This is such a huge area. Please, please, please connect with me, give me your feedback. I'd be delighted to go into more detail around certain areas. But for now, this has been the Whiteboard Workout. I shall see you next time.